President Trump keeps delivering on his promise to protect American jobs. Today, signing an executive order titled Buy American, Hire American. It requires federal agencies to buy only American-made goods when possible and orders agencies to overhaul the H-1B visa program that some companies regularly abuse to hire foreign workers instead of Americans. The president promoted his patriotic agenda at the headquarters of Snap-on, a tool manufacturer in Wisconsin, this afternoon.
This election, the American people voted to end the theft of American prosperity. They voted to bring back their jobs and to bring back their dreams into our country. With this action, we are sending a powerful signal to the world. We're going to defend our workers, protect our jobs, and finally put America first. It's America first. You better believe it. It's time. It's time, right? It's time.
All right, KG. He said, I'm quoting him, aggressively promote and use American-made goods and to ensure American labor is used as much as possible. Your thoughts?
All right. So this, this is a follow-through basically on the campaign rhetoric, the promises that he made to the working men and women across this country, that he was going to put America first, that he was encouraging them to buy an American, make in America. So that's what this is about, and it's about checking the box on the list of campaign promises and the platform that he had in terms of how we want to focus the economy in this country.
Bob, I want to talk about the H-1B visa program in a second, but first you had some concerns in the green room about using American workers and using American goods first.
Don't let me not have a comment about H-1B.
We'll get there.
That's because since Trump hires it. Here's my only point about this, and that is that if you're ordering, as I understand it, Buy American means that he orders agencies to purchase only American products. As a general rule in the business community, if that were something that was spread out in the business community as a general issue, you would find resistance, would you not? Because you're not being able to go out in the marketplace and find the cheapest product available to you to do the job. I mean, that was my understanding of what free markets were about. So this runs a little counter to that, does it not?
You know, it definitely does. But again, this is the federal agencies he's talking about. He's not suggesting that American corporations, I mean, unless there's some sort of tax incentive. But as of right now, it looks like he's asking for corporations to buy American, to hire American, but not demanding it.
Well, and the suggestion might be good enough in some ways. It's sort of like what's happened at the border where just knowing that Donald Trump is serious about immigration policy, you've seen border crossings go down for other reasons too, seasonal and all the rest in the economy. But really, I do think that that's a deterrent. So him saying, telling the federal agencies, this is what I want you to do. He's trying to direct some things. This is not law. This is not actual even regulation. This is basically a suggestion and telling the agencies to try to do it where you can. I do think that there is something to be said for what Bob is talking about in terms of the free market, because we're talking about jobs for one, but we're also interested in wages, right? So you want to make sure that you're able to pay people the best possible wage in order for it to be efficient. But you're also talking about consumers, and you're talking about taxpayers. So taxpayers want to get the best deal that they can get as well. So it's a little bit more complicated, but I would give them an A+ for marketing for Buy American, Hire American. That's a great day.
Yeah, Greg, he also hit on this topic that has been going back and forth, the crackdown of foreign steel being dumped into the U.S., and then I think he meant at some point that requiring as much U.S. steel to be used in these pipelines and other infrastructure programs that we are spending American dollars on.
Yeah, I thought the message, the strong message, what hit me the most was, I don't think, it wasn't about jobs to me. It was about craft. He was talking about people using tools and making stuff. It was a call back to the past and trying to say that this could be part of our future. And I thought that was the most moving thing, to your point that nothing may come out of this, but what he's trying to say is that we used to be a country that made things, and it made you feel good.
That produced.
It's a restorative feeling, a psychological effect. I think he even said it was psychological. And that's why he brought up vocational schools and training, which is so important. The thing is, this may be a temporary challenge that we wished we had in 10 years, because robots do not sleep, they do not unionize, they do not demand a wage, they do not demand health care. And what happens when you see 60 million people who are suddenly out of jobs, let's say in 20 years from now? You hear hear about in Silicon Valley these billionaires building panic rooms, it's not because of North Korea, it's because of North Carolina. What happens when you have all these able-bodied people who are no longer needed to work? What happens to them? I think this revolution, this technological revolution, is going to make the industrial revolution look like nothing. Because in the industrial revolution, a person that worked on a farm could actually work in a factory. But a person who works on the assembly line can't build the assembly line.
So can I follow up on that? So if that is the case, and not saying it's not, it may very well be. I think a lot of billionaires who are involved in business would agree with you. In fact, Bill Gates suggested that we tax robots as individuals. So corporations taxed on its profits, but if you hire, if you use a robot in the place of an American worker, he suggests your thoughts on taxing a robot the way we tax an individual.
In fact, you can't stop progress. Inevitably, this is the first time in history that you can use fewer people and create more. It used to take, 10 people on an assembly line would do 10 times the amount of work as one person. Now one person could do the work of 10 people. So, yeah, tax a robot. It'd be just like taxing anything.
Yeah, but the thing you said about going back, I mean, it sounds nice and it sounds nostalgic and all that, but the reality is the reason that we're not producing as much is that American companies are going to other countries where they can get it produced cheaper, where robots are taking over, where technology is taking over. He can talk all he wants about going back to the good old days of American craftsmen. It's gone. It's over. It's finished.
Okay. And some of the pushback on the taxing of robots would be, well, the incentive to use a robot is because it's cheaper, and if you're going to go ahead and make it more expensive to do it by taxing it, you want to stop any activity, tax it more.
But that's not a free market.
But one of the reasons...
Go ahead.
Right, I agree. But one of the reasons Gates said that was that if you take all of these if all of these workers no longer have jobs and income, then how are you going to get tax in order to fund the government? That was part of that discussion.
So, but basically, it's going to operate as a disincentive to say I'm going to take a human, worker versus a robot. But like Greg says, you really can't stop the forward progression of technology. That's why we.
Well, you can if you tax it.
You can try if you tax it and you penalize. I mean, eventually you're playing a war and a game of attrition here.
Yeah.
Eventually it'll break down. You're going to have to go with this. So you have to figure out ways and innovate for other jobs, et cetera, that you can have. People do, so you can keep filling the workforce. I think it's very important. That's why people are upset. I mean, people are upset about the H-1B visas for the same reason as they're upset about the robots, because they're taking jobs from American workers.
It also raising the minimum wage actually lends itself to automation because it's easier just to have you don't have to pay more for a robot.
We ought to get in the business of building robots. By the way, we're buying robots from China. We could make those here, I think.
We could all go to robot camp this
summer. You guys brought up H-1B visas. Listen to this. Here's more from the president today on that Hire American portion of his new executive order.
Right now, widespread abuse in our immigration system is allowing American workers of all backgrounds to be replaced by workers brought in from other countries to fill the same job for sometimes less pay. This will stop. American workers have long called for reforms to end these visa abuses, and today their calls are being answered for the first time. That includes taking the first steps to set in motion a long overdue reform of H-1B visas.
And now, Dana, you and I have spoken about this a bunch of times. The H-1B visa program, 85,000 workers given out on a lottery basis, but Trump is saying, per year, sorry. Trump is saying, give those visas to the most skilled workers first. And the companies would say that they want to do that they would like to hire American workers, and what the requirement is that you have to show that there was no qualified American that you could hire that could actually do that job. There was some discrepancy when it came to Disney, and there was that 60 Minutes piece. But the court actually found that Disney did not lie. The workers had said Disney lied to them. The court found that they didn't. But that was a very moving story because you had people who were working, doing really good jobs, and that they were having to train their replacements. So it was humiliating for them as well. I think that's what he was tapping into. Again, I don't know if this has any real-world impacts because it's a request for the agencies to study the problem, but just by him raising it will probably make sure that companies actually follow the letter of the law.
Well, high tech has used this most, and what happens is we bring the Chinese over here, we educate them and give them the best technology training they could possibly get. They go back home, and then we hire them here at a lower wage to come back to Silicon Valley. The other thing I think he's talking about, this is where Trump is in real trouble. You know who uses that last year, the last 3 years?
Yes.
Trump. His people applied for 15,000 jobs for the Trump organizations on H-1B. Now,
Those are you mean the seasonal?
Part of it had to do with the vineyards. Part of it had to do with building some of his buildings in New York. The fact of the matter is, at least the guy could say, you know, I've done it myself, and I think it's probably sometime we could change it. But he won't do that.
Well, go ahead. Do you want to talk about the H-1B
It's
visa
interesting
program?
because there is. I'm trying to figure out. Okay, what is the abuse? Okay, is it the computer programmer who won't work for that age, who's losing that job, or is it the computer programmer who will work for that wage?
Right.
You know,
I think it's that.
Yeah, but then what we're arguing about is we're trying to help the guy from India, who's coming over, who wants that wage.
But the original idea behind the H-1B visa program was that, as Dana points out, you first had to exhaust your ability to fill a position with an American, and then you go to the H-1B visa program if you can't fill it. And very aptly, this 60 Minutes piece pointed out that companies are abusing it by saying it's just cheaper to do it this way.
But there's also loopholes. So that they found there's been multiple, violations of that and abuses of that, requirement saying make a good faith effort to try and employ an American worker to be able to do this job before then you go to the second layer to an H-1B visa. And that's one of the bills introduced by Durbin and Grassley that says also if we're going to give H-1B visas out, we're going to pre-select and get the best and brightest of those. So there's a hierarchy in terms of who's going to have a shot at those jobs once they've tried to fill it with an American. I mean, that seems reasonable.
You said something to me about what a great line, hire American, buy American, and I think that's right. I mean, you can't have a bad day when you got that as your lead. However, having said that, let's assume 25% of these things are abused, the H-1B, which is a lot. So you're talking about probably ending up with about 60,000 jobs that are legitimate, and 25,000 or 20,000 are not. That's only 20,000 jobs out of hundreds of millions of jobs. Right. So it sounds good, but it's not a big part of the employment problem.
Can you imagine the PR nightmare you would have if you were the company who says we're pushing back against your hire American?
No, sure.
You know what would be better? You know what would create more jobs is this mythical tax cut I'm waiting for, and the corporate tax cuts that I'm waiting for. It's like you're going to see your favorite band, and instead of playing Stairway to Heaven, he keeps playing All My Love. I want the hit. I want him to play the hit.
The new stuff that nobody knows the words
to. The new stuff.
The lead singer just has a sore throat. He's going to play. They're going to come out.
That's a brutal.
No, it's Sammy Hagar instead of David Lee Roth.
Well, that would be a problem.
That's a brutal slow dance song. Stairway to Heaven. Ooh,
takes forever.
Yeah, that was my 8th grade.
I think that's 12 minutes long, if I'm not mistaken.